The night I realized my fiancé was hiding something, he dropped his fork like he'd seen a ghost. When my mom simply asked, "Will your parents be at the wedding?" His hands shook, his face drained of all color, and that's when I knew. The family he never wanted me to meet was holding a secret big enough to destroy everything. I'm Rachel Miller, 34, and I thought I had found the kind of love women dream of. To everyone around us, Daniel Brooks was perfect. Steady, dependable, the man my parents adored. But one simple question shattered that illusion. At a Sunday dinner, my mom asked, "So, when will we meet your family?" The plate slipped from Daniel's hand, crashing to the floor. His face turned pale, and when I pressed him later, his answer chilled me. "They won't be there, Rachel. Ever. That's all you need to know." Days later, I found an envelope in his jacket. $200 sent to a Denise Brooks in Youngstown. His last name. My blood ran cold. Why lie about a family he clearly supported? When I asked him directly, his eyes flashed. "Don't go through my things." The sharpness in his voice cut me like glass. And then came the moment that broke me. While my parents offered to pay for a beautiful wedding, Daniel snapped, "No, just a courthouse. My family will not be there." End of story. Trust cracked. Fear crept in. And my mother's warning echoed. Secrets rot families from the inside. Don't let silence become your prison. So when Daniel left for a business trip, I made a choice. I drove to Youngstown. The houses sagged with neglect, the air heavy with decay. And then I saw her. A little girl, bruised and weary, opened the door. She looked me straight in the eye and asked, "Are you here for my mom?" My breath caught, because her face, her nose, her eyes, was Daniel's. Before we go further into this dramatic story, don't forget to subscribe to her Betrayal stories and ring the notification bell. This is the place for tales of sacrifice, betrayal, and the most unexpected twists. And tell me, where are you watching from today? Leave a comment below. Who knows? The next story might echo your very own experience. He said his parents wouldn't be at the wedding, and that I should never ask again. So I secretly drove to their door. The girl who opened it couldn't have been more than 12. Same green eyes as Daniel, same stubborn chin. Her question sliced through me. "Are you here for my mom?" For a heartbeat, the world tilted. The future I'd planned shifted out of frame. "I'm Rachel," I managed, keeping my voice gentle. "I'm looking for Denise Brooks." She stepped aside. "I'm Megan." The name landed like a verdict. Stale beer and cigarette smoke clung to the walls. Wallpaper peeled in long curls. The TV flickered mute blue light over a kitchen crowded with unpaid bills. On the counter sat a sun-faded photo, 2 boys and a little girl in front of a leaning barn. One boy was unmistakably Daniel. "Do you know Daniel?" I asked. Megan's gaze held mine. "He's my brother." The room seemed to shrink around that truth. Daniel had promised there would be no family at our wedding, because there was a family he refused to face. The front door slammed. Vodka stung the air before I even turned. Denise Brooks swayed in the doorway. Smudged eyeliner, cracked lipstick, a smile like a blade. "Well, well," she sneered, another woman sniffing around my son's clean little life. Her eyes traveled over me, slow and mean. "Fiancé?" "Yes," I said, standing straighter. "I'm engaged to Daniel." She laughed, a hard, hollow sound. "He didn't tell you because he's ashamed. Of this house. Of me. Of where he came from." A long pull from the bottle. "But he still sends money. Funny kind of shame, isn't it?" "Why would he hide you?" I asked, heat flushing my face. "Why hide her?" I nodded at Megan, who had gone very still. "Because truth is expensive," Denise hissed, "and Daniel likes things neat." Another beat. Her words weren't just cruel, they were bait. I refused to swallow it. I thanked Megan for letting me in and left with my heart pounding in my throat. Back in Cleveland, I didn't lead with anger, I led with fact. You have a sister, I said, laying the photo on our table, and a mother who knows me now. Daniel stared like he'd been shot. You went there? Don't turn this on me. My voice shook, but I held his eyes. You've been sending money to Denise. Megan has bruises on her arm. Your past isn't gone, Daniel. It's living, and it needs you. Silence swelled between us until it felt like a wall. Finally, he said hoarsely, You don't understand. Then help me understand. But he only turned away, as if the truth were a crowd pressing him backward. Days blurred. He came home later, his temper taut as wire. When I asked about the wedding, he snapped. When I said Megan, he froze. When I said Denise, he shut down. One night, my question found the fracture line. Who is Denise to you, besides a secret? His jaw locked. You wouldn't last a day in my family's world. You've had everything handed to you. You're useless when it comes to real pain. The word hit like a slap. Useless. It echoed in the quiet house long after he walked out of the room. Short, reflective beat. For anyone who's been told by the person you love that you're not enough, you know the way the floor gives way beneath your feet. You learn what you're made of on the fall down. I drove back to Youngstown because answers were better than apologies that never came. Megan met me on the porch, hugging her elbows against the wind. I knew you'd come back, she said softly. We sat at the rickety kitchen table while the TV's cold light shivered across the room. She spoke in fragments, like someone piecing herself together. Their father gone for years. Denise drowning in bottles and bad debts. Jason, the eldest, working 2 jobs, shielding them both. The night he followed Denise to a bar to drag her out before the wrong people collected. The fight. The knife. The blood. The way Daniel left after. Haunted. Sending money because guilt is a leash you wear even when you think you've cut it. Daniel says Mom will sell him out like she sold Jason, Megan whispered, eyes shining. He thinks I'm better off without him. He's wrong. I pulled her into my arms. She was all bones and hope. You deserve more than survival, I murmured. You deserve a life. In that moment, I understood. The secret wasn't just parents who wouldn't come to a wedding. It was a childhood too dangerous to invite into a future. That night, I put the truth on our kitchen table like evidence. I know about Jason, I told Daniel when he came home, rain still in his hair. I know why you send money. I know the bar, the fight, the way it rewired your heart. He flinched, as if the words themselves burned. You had no right. No right to know what I'm marrying? My voice cracked. No right to keep a child safe? Secrets don't vanish. They rot. And they're rotting us. His hands trembled. The mask finally slipped. If I'd driven him that night, if I had just gone, Jason would still be alive. He swallowed hard. I killed my brother, Rachel. No, I said, stepping close even when he stepped back. You didn't hold the knife. Debt and addiction did. Your mother's choices did. He turned away, shoulders caving. That's not how it feels. The rift widened in the days that followed. Linda squeezed my hand at Sunday dinner. Sweetheart, love is truth with skin on, she said. If there's no truth, there's no marriage. Only a performance. Denise started calling after midnight. Slurred threats oozed through the receiver. He belongs to this mess. Try to take him, and you'll regret it. I saved the voicemails. Fear is loudest in the dark, but a record is louder in court. Then one morning, Megan stood outside my office in the thin gray light, backpack clutched like a life jacket. Rachel, she whispered, you need to see this. From the bag, she drew a small scuffed journal, the leather worn thin by hands that had worked too hard. It's Jason's. We sat in the break room. I opened to the first page. Jason's handwriting was steady, weary, brave. Dates and notes. Lists of debts. Names of men who didn't knock when they came to collect. And a final entry that wasn't a confession, it was a warning. Mom owes the wrong people. I'll go get her. If I don't come back, don't let Megan stay. Daniel left, and I don't blame him, but part of me resents him. Somebody has to choose survival over shame. I felt the shape of our life change under my hands. This wasn't a tragic accident preserved in fog. It was a map, a way out, if Daniel could stand to look. I closed the journal and stared at the door, suddenly certain of two things. This book could save Daniel, and it could destroy Denise. That evening, I set the journal in front of him. "Read it," I said quietly. "Not to punish you, to free you." He didn't touch it at first. Then he did. He read. Twice. When he finally looked up, his face was stripped of anger and shame alike, left with something rawer, grief uncorrupted by blame. "It wasn't me," he whispered, as if testing the weight of grace. "It was her debts, her men, her night. Jason chose to protect her." He stared down at the page that carried his brother's last words. "I left because I thought leaving was how you stopped the bleeding." "And now?" I asked. He closed the journal and set his palm over it like a vow. "Now we stop it for Megan. No more secret money, no more midnight calls. We do this the right way." The phone rang then. Unknown number. Youngstown Exchange. I let it go to voicemail, and we listened on speaker as Denise's voice slithered into our kitchen. "You think a little notebook makes you better than me? Try it. See what happens." Daniel didn't flinch. He reached for my hand. "Tomorrow," he said, "we take this to a lawyer." I squeezed back, aware of the storm forming on the horizon, and of the first clean breath I'd taken in months. The wedding might be small. His parents might not come. But the truth was, walking into the room now, and it had our last name on it. He said his parents would never be at the wedding. So I secretly drove to their world and brought back the truth he'd buried. Now I sat in my car, Jason's journal trembling in my hands like contraband. The leather was cracked, edges frayed, the ink smudged where tears had fallen. Megan had pressed it into my palms with the kind of urgency no child should ever carry. "Promise me," she'd whispered, her fingers cold around mine. "You'll read it. You'll know." I opened it, and the smell of old paper and cigarette smoke rose like a ghost. Each page pulled me further into a life Daniel had hidden. Jason's entries were not polite family history. They were confessions, warnings, fragments of a man carrying the weight of a crumbling home. He worked 2 jobs, paid Denise's debts, shielded Megan from drunken rages, while Daniel, the youngest, ran, guilt snapping at his heels. One entry stopped me cold. "Mom owes money to people you don't mess with." I tried to buy her time, but tonight she pushed too far. "I'm scared, but I can't leave Megan here alone." Daniel left, and I don't blame him. But part of me resents him too. I'm walking into the lion's den, and if I don't come back, at least Megan will know I tried. The date matched the night Jason was killed. This wasn't just an estranged family. This was a crime scene dressed up as kinship. Denise's debts had dragged Jason to his death, and Daniel had been living with a guilt that wasn't his. When I laid the journal on our kitchen table, Daniel's face drained of color. "Where did you get this?" His voice cracked. "Megan gave it to me." He sat hard into a chair, the journal heavy in his hands. His eyes flicked over Jason's words, lips moving as if reading them aloud in his head. "I thought it was me," he whispered. "All these years I thought if I'd been there, Jason would have lived. But it wasn't me. It was her. It was Mom." Tears rolled down his cheeks, guilt loosening its claws. But in its place, something hotter rose. She killed him, he muttered, fists clenching. Her debt, her selfishness. She might as well have stabbed him herself. For a heartbeat, I saw the boy inside him turning into a man at war with his past. Daniel cut off the money. He blocked her calls. Denise responded with voicemails dripping with venom. "Don't you dare cut me off. I'll come to Cleveland myself. You think Rachel's family will still want you when they find out the truth?" Each message was another shadow sliding under our door. I felt the walls closing in. Denise wasn't just toxic. She was dangerous. And with the journal in my possession, she'd stop at nothing to bury Jason's words. Secrets weren't just rotting our future, they were becoming weapons. One evening, I sat at my parents' kitchen table and told them everything. Linda's hand flew to her mouth, eyes brimming with tears. Robert's jaw set like stone. "Sweetheart," my mother said gently, "you can't walk into a marriage built on secrets and threats. You deserve safety, respect, truth." My father added, "And Daniel deserves to face his past, not run from it." They weren't angry. They pitied him. But they made it clear, if Daniel didn't confront Denise, she would destroy us both. Megan began calling me at night, whispering updates. Denise drinking more? Pawning anything she could find, lashing out. Megan begged me not to tell Daniel how bad it was, afraid it would push him further away. I reassured her, but inside, helplessness burned. To my viewers, have you ever felt trapped between protecting someone you love and telling them a truth that might shatter them? That's where I was, a no man's land of silence and dread. It was a rainy Friday evening. Daniel came home soaked and trembling, a storm inside matching the one outside. "I saw her," he muttered. "She showed up at my office, drunk. She screamed at the receptionist, called me her golden goose, said if I cut her off she'd tell everyone I abandoned them." He ran his hands through wet hair, shaking. "Rachel, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending I don't have a past." I reached for his hand. "Then stop pretending. Face it. With me." For the first time, he didn't pull away. We devised a plan, not revenge, but exposure. We'd take Jason's journal to an attorney, secure Megan's safety, confront Denise with the law instead of fear. Daniel resisted. Pride battled shame. He hated the idea of airing family filth before strangers. But when I reminded him of Megan's bruises, her tired eyes, he nodded. "She deserves better," he whispered. For the first time, Daniel wasn't running from the past. He was running toward it. As we prepared, tension rose around our own wedding. My parents pressed for clarity. Daniel grew restless, almost ready to cancel everything. Finally, I faced him. "If you want to marry me, Daniel, you marry all of me, my family, my honesty. And I will marry all of you. That means Megan, Jason's memory, even Denise's shadow. We don't get to choose which parts of family are convenient." His breath caught. Silence stretched between us. Then he whispered, "You're right. If I marry you, I marry the truth. No more running." The next day, with Jason's journal in hand, we walked into a lawyer's office. For the first time, Daniel said aloud the words he'd buried for years. "My mother's negligence led to my brother's death. My sister is still at risk. I need legal guardianship of Megan, and I want Denise cut off. For good." The lawyer flipped through the journal, nodding slowly. "With this, we can build a case. But be prepared. Your mother won't go quietly." We had crossed a line. There was no going back. That night, as I closed our bedroom window, I saw a figure across the street in the rain. A woman swaying slightly, clutching a bottle. shouting words lost to the storm. Even from that distance, I knew. Denise had found us, and she wasn't here to beg for money. The storm outside rattled the glass. The storm inside was about to break. The rain pounded against the window, but all I could hear was the muffled shouting from across the street. Denise stood there like a phantom dragged out of Daniel's nightmares, hair plastered to her face, clutching a bottle, swaying as if the storm itself was holding her upright. I pulled the curtains shut, my heart racing. "Daniel," I whispered, "she's here." He looked up, his face ashen. For a moment I saw the boy inside him, the terrified child who had once lived under her roof. "No more running," I reminded him, placing Jason's journal in his trembling hands. The next morning, Denise barged through our door before we could even decide what to do. "You ungrateful brat!" she screamed, pointing a trembling finger at Daniel. "After everything I sacrificed, you think you can just cut me off? You owe me." Her voice cracked the air like thunder. Daniel's jaw clenched. "I owe you nothing. Jason died because of you. Megan suffers because of you. And I'm done pretending otherwise." The words stunned her for a moment, but then her face twisted with rage. "Don't you dare blame me for Jason. He was reckless, always playing hero. You're just like him, thinking you're better than me. Without me, you wouldn't even exist." Her words dripped venom, but for the first time, Daniel didn't flinch. He stood taller. I stepped forward, my voice steady. "Denise, we have Jason's journal. It's evidence. It details your debts, your neglect, and your role in the night he died. If you keep threatening Daniel, or Megan, we'll take it to court." Her eyes widened, panic flickering for a split second before she masked it with laughter. "Court? Honey, nobody listens to family squabbles, and if you think anyone will take that little scribble seriously, you're dumber than you look." But the crack in her confidence was there, and I knew she felt it. The front door creaked again, and Megan slipped inside, her small frame drenched from the rain. "Mom, stop," she cried, clutching her backpack tightly. "You're lying. Jason wrote everything. You let those men hurt him because of your gambling." Denise spun toward her, eyes blazing. "Shut up, Megan. You don't know what you're talking about." But Megan stood her ground. "Yes, I do. And I'm not afraid of you anymore. I'm going with Daniel and Rachel. I'm not staying in that house." The room froze. For the first time, the balance shifted. The child Denise had always controlled had broken free. Daniel stepped between them, his voice steady, commanding. "This ends now, Mom. I've filed for guardianship of Megan. I'm cutting off the money, and if you come near us again, I'll have a restraining order issued." Denise's face contorted. "You can't do this to me. I'm your mother." "No," Daniel replied coldly. "You were supposed to be. But a mother protects her children. You destroyed us. And now, you don't get to destroy what's left." His voice thundered with years of buried rage, and I saw Denise falter, her power crumbling before his resolve. In a desperate attempt, Denise lunged for the journal on the table, screaming, "You won't ruin me with this!" But Daniel caught her wrist midair, gripping it firmly. His voice was low, dangerous. "This villa, this life, it's mine now. You are trespassing in everything I've built. Leave." Her body went limp, and for a moment, silence fell. Then, with a bitter laugh, she staggered toward the door. "You think you've won," she hissed. "But you'll always carry me with you, Daniel. You can't erase blood." And with that, she disappeared into the storm. Weeks later, we sat in a small courtroom. Jason's journal had been submitted as evidence. Megan testified bravely about the neglect, the bruises, the nights of hunger. Denise, seated across the room, looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. Sober, haggard but still venomous in her glares. The judge's words rang out. Guardianship of Megan Brooks is hereby granted to Daniel Brooks. Tears streamed down Megan's face as she gripped Daniel's hand. Denise erupted, shouting obscenities until bailiffs escorted her out. But her words no longer mattered. For the first time, Daniel wasn't bound by her chains. That evening, after the court victory, we returned home. Daniel sat quietly, staring at Jason's journal. He should be here, he whispered. He should see this. See that Megan is safe. I placed my hand over his. He sees, Daniel. Every choice you've made to protect Megan. That's Jason living through you. Daniel looked at me, his eyes clearer than they'd ever been. For the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm failing him. We didn't wait for a grand ceremony. We walked into the courthouse with Megan by our side. She wore a simple dress and carried a small bouquet of daisies she'd picked herself. As the judge pronounced us husband and wife, Megan smiled through her tears. Jason would be proud, she whispered. It wasn't just a wedding. It was a vow. To each other, to Megan, to the truth. That night, as we celebrated quietly at home, a letter slid under the door. No stamp, no envelope, just folded paper. In shaky handwriting it read, "You may have won today, but the past is never buried. D." My hands trembled as I held it. Denise was gone from the courtroom, but not from our lives. And I knew. We hadn't seen the last of her. The folded letter sat on our dining table like a snake coiled to strike. The words, "The past is never buried," were burned into my memory. Denise was gone from the courtroom, but her shadow lingered in every corner of our home. For nights, I barely slept. Every creak of the house made me jump. Every passing car had me peeking through the curtains. Daniel, though outwardly calm, often sat awake until dawn. Jason's journal clutched like a talisman. And Megan, sweet Megan, slept in the guest room, clutching a teddy bear too worn for her 12 years, afraid her mother would come in the night. We took the letter to our lawyer. He examined it, sighed, and said, "It's a threat. Yes, but vague. Unless she violates the restraining order directly, there's little the court can do." It was maddening. The law had given us guardianship, but it couldn't give us peace. That evening, Daniel burned the letter in the fireplace. Watching the paper curl and blacken, he whispered, "She can't control us anymore." But the flames did little to quiet the unease in my chest. Despite the fear, we began rebuilding. Megan enrolled in a new school. On her first day, she clutched my hand so tightly I thought she'd never let go. But when she returned that afternoon, smiling about a new friend she'd made, my heart swelled with hope. Daniel started therapy. At first, he resisted, saying he didn't need to spill his guts to a stranger. But week by week, I saw his shoulders lighten, his voice steady. For the first time, he spoke Jason's name without breaking. And me? I kept journaling, pouring every twist of this journey onto the page, because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: silence protects no one. One crisp autumn afternoon, we drove to the cemetery in Youngstown. Jason's grave was simple, almost forgotten. Just his name carved into stone, surrounded by fallen leaves. Daniel knelt, tracing his brother's name with trembling fingers. "I carried the wrong burden all these years," he whispered. "I thought I killed you by leaving, but it was her. Mom's choices, not mine." Megan placed a daisy on the grave. "I'll make you proud, Uncle Jason. I promise." Tears blurred my vision. In that moment, grief and healing intertwined. Jason was gone, but his words had saved us. His journal was not just a record of pain, it was a gift of truth. Weeks later, while shopping downtown, I saw her. Denise. She was thinner, her clothes disheveled, her face a map of years of bitterness and regret. She spotted me, and for a moment her eyes softened, almost human. "You took everything from me," she hissed, stepping closer. "No," I replied calmly. "You lost everything the moment you chose alcohol, debt, and lies over your children." Her lips trembled, and for a fleeting second, I thought she might break down. But then, with a bitter laugh, she turned and staggered into the crowd. I never saw her again. Life slowly stitched itself back together. Our wedding photo now sat proudly on the mantel, me, Daniel, and Megan standing side by side. A family, not perfect, but whole. Every Sunday my parents came over. Linda baked pies with Megan while Robert taught her chess. For the first time, Megan had grandparents who adored her. One evening, as we all sat around the table, Megan looked up and said, "This is what family feels like, isn't it?" I felt tears sting my eyes. Yes, sweetheart, this is family. As I sit here telling you this story, I think about how betrayal often hides in silence. Daniel's silence nearly cost him his future. Denise's lies nearly destroyed us all. Jason's truth, though painful, became the key to freedom. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. The truth will hurt, yes, but it also heals. We cannot bury the past, but we can face it. We can choose to break cycles of abuse, neglect, and guilt. And sometimes, doing so means drawing lines even against the people who share our blood. When I look at Daniel now, laughing as he helps Megan with her homework, I don't see the broken man haunted by guilt. I see strength. I see redemption. And when I look at Megan, blossoming into a confident young girl, I see hope. That the scars of one generation don't have to define the next. As for me, I've learned that love isn't about painting over cracks to make life look perfect. It's about standing together when the cracks threaten to split you apart, and daring to rebuild anyway. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. If my story touched you, please subscribe to Her Betrayal Stories for more tales of sacrifice, betrayal, and unexpected redemption. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever faced family secrets that changed everything? And remember, betrayal may break you, but truth can set you free.